Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for another watch review. We have the highly regarded, popular Flightmaster, the SNA 411, and then we have kind of the older Flightmaster. These are my two Flightmasters. I initially got this one kind of just, an impulse buy. I like vintage Seikos, especially cheap vintage Seikos. So when this one popped up on sale, I got it, and part of me wanted to always try this one, and this came up on sale and drop, so I picked it up as well. And I must say, I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of videos about this watch already, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this watch, it really looks better in person. Almost every reviewer is kind of pleasantly surprised how nice this watch is and just how interesting and dynamic it is, and it's true. If you're on the fence about this watch, you should definitely get it. It's a super cool watch. It's probably my favorite quartz watch. I really like this one, but this one just has a little bit more depth to it. So this one being a little bit smaller, it's a little crowded with the 4 dials. It doesn't have that kind of a deep kind of a appearance like this one. You can see how the bezel just kind of, or the inner chapter ring is just much taller, or at least so it appears. So overall, this one I think does look a little bit nicer. The one thing I like about this one is the hands. I like the smaller hands. If you can kind of make out here, you can see how it's got nice yellow pointers, just a little bit more kind of really more reminiscent of like like gauge clusters on like a plane would look like, where this one I think is a little bit more kind of just watch-esque, where this one's a little bit more kind of like more just to me it looks more like gauges on like a cluster in a plane would. So I definitely prefer the dials on that one. The bezel action on these, and this one's obviously much older, so it's a little harder to turn, but looking at this one, it's got a very nice solid smooth turn to it. And one thing I did not realize, but these pushers, you can't use them. You have to unscrew the crowns to use them. I actually didn't realize that. So, kind of, I don't know if I like that, because these are hard to unscrew when you're wearing it, at least for me, because I'm a lefty. So when I wear my watch in my hand, it's almost impossible to unscrew this safely, quickly to use it. You pretty much have to take it off when you use a chronograph. So, but then again, I kind of understand why they did it for the water resistance. So, just something to note. It's got, I think, just the right amount of lume. Small little, dots of lume, as you can see here. So that's all you need. I think it helps when you kind of are transitioning between like a dark room and a bright room, so you can kind of glance at your watch quickly. But you can kind of see it there a little better. And the crystal on this thing is awesome too. It's got a real nice distortion. It is a mineral or a hardlex crystal, but it does actually throw off some cool kind of distortion colors. I've actually never seen a Seiko mineral crystal do this before, where it gives off like a blue, almost, it's like, I don't know if this has AR on it, but it gives off like a blue purplish hues, as if almost it had some kind of coating, because I've never had Seikos do that before, where they give off that kind of a clear hue. And I don't know if it's, you can kind of see it, I guess. You can kind of see how it's giving off the kind of the hues, but super cool. This one does not, maybe, but here's a better look. You can kind of see the difference between these two. But obviously they're very, very similar. The biggest difference is you got the 3 o'clock date gauge, where here you got the more traditional kind of date wheel. So, a lot of information about this watch. I'm not going to go into more detail, but one of the drawbacks of this watch actually is the bracelet. It actually is a pretty nice, thick, kind of nice feeling bracelet for what you pay for this watch, but it's just the polishing on it. It's got this, I don't know. To be honest, I don't like that. I like the quality and the feel of the bracelet a lot, but just not this super high polished metal. I mean, it's almost got like a dress watch effect to it. I think this would have been looked much better if it had a brushed bracelet with maybe some slight polish accents and the kind of the mid links here and there, but I think it's a little too much polish. It looks a little too, I mean, I guess the whole watch is polished, but I don't know, I think it's a little too much polish. So not a big fan of the bracelet, just by design, but otherwise it actually is a pretty solid feeling bracelet. It's actually pretty, you know, kind of got a nice thickness to it. It's not really janky, kind of solid, you know, push links. So, but you know, for the price point, I would say this is a pretty nice bracelet. The big downside to this watch, I guess, kind of, is that this actually uses a 21 millimeter lug width, which obviously is a very kind of unpopular one, so it makes straps a little difficult, but it's actually not too bad. So this is a 22. So what I actually did, just get a tool out here. So what actually I think is good is, I'll show you here in just a second. So let me take one of these off. Okay, so what I did is, there's two downfalls to this watch. One obviously uses 21 millimeters, but if you can also see, it is recessed and pretty deep, which makes it almost, I mean, it makes it very difficult to get a aftermarket strap in there. I mean, to get a NATO through there is almost impossible. Some leathers, unless they're thinner, might have a hard time fitting because it's so close. It doesn't leave a whole lot of, let me see if I can show you guys here. Let me get a, we'll pause this for a sec. Okay, I'm back. I had to try to get the original spring bar. So if you look at when you put, okay, here we go. So if you look at the spring bar, now when it's in, look how much clearance you have, virtually none. I mean, if you try to take a NATO, I mean, look at that. It's just, there's just no way you can easily get it. I mean, you could probably put the NATO on and then put the spring bar over it, but you're gonna fight it. So what I ended up doing actually is, if you take a 22 millimeter spring bar and bend it, so we can see right here. So I gave it a little bit of a bend, and that does two things. One, it actually then shortens it down, I think by like a millimeter, so then becomes like a 21 length, but then also creates a little bit more space to allow a NATO to fit. So now if I take the stock one off, there we go. Okay, so now we take that same NATO and look, and then we've created just enough space now. See how it bends out? So now if you did want to get a NATO in there, it is a tight squeeze, but you can get in there. See? But without that bend, I mean, it's a struggle. So that's actually, I think, the best thing to do is take a 22 millimeter spring bar, give it a little bit of a bend so it kind of matches the watch, and then you're able to fit a 22 NATO or a 22 leather. So this leather actually fits perfectly now too, because it takes the shape of the spring bar. So let me just show you. If you look at this one, so you can kind of see that this kind of bends with the bar, so it kind of creates almost a little bit of a nicer connection to the watch versus like a traditional straight. It kind of, you know, hugs it a little better. So that's kind of I think the best thing for this, unless you have 20. I mean, if you have 21 millimeter spring bars already and bands already, then you're in business. But I actually did not have a single 21 millimeter band or spring bar to use. I mean, obviously the stock ones, but even when I put this one, when I put this leather band on the original 21, which are these right here, and these. The leather was a little, I mean, you have to, I think it kind of compressed now, but it was very kind of hard to get it in there. And what you risk doing is kind of ruining the leather band. And actually, I'll show you an example of what I mean. So this one actually, so this leather band I got a while back, and it is a 22 millimeter. And it was actually, I think I got a bad one because it was a little, I almost think this was like a 21, to be honest, because it was a little too small for a 22, but a little too big for a 20. But I ended up fitting it on a 20, and I wore it on a 20 millimeter watch for a while, and eventually these got compressed in, where if I tried to then put it back on a 22, it just didn't look right. So I think with leather, if you compress it too much, eventually, you know, I don't know if you're going to get it back to the original size to be able to use it as a larger size it might have come in as. So just kind of be wary that if you do take a bigger leather band and you compress it and use it for a long time, you might not be able to kind of get it back to that size. So I'm trying to get it back into its that's the problem. It's so deep in there that it makes it hard. But I can do that off camera. Okay, and we're back. So I was able to get this back on, but there you go. So this is just a little quick tip how to make a 22 work, and now you can see that that bent spring bar is kind of helping kind of push the leather inward a little bit here to make it not get scrunched up. So I think I might be okay, and if I ever decide to pull this off, I might be able to pull it off on a 22 size again. But if not, no worries. It's not one I used a lot anyway. But yeah, so let's just do one quick wrist shot here, and there you go. So great watch. I actually ordered a sapphire crystal, so I will make a video of that upgrade. I actually have a blue mineral crystal I got for a turtle, and just to FYI, this glass size is the same as a Seiko turtle. So if you have any Seiko turtle crystals, you can reuse them. So I actually have a blue mineral crystal from a turtle that I never ended up using, so maybe I might try doing that before I get the sapphire, but I don't know, I don't want to go through the hassle for nothing. But yeah, there you go. So here you go, kind of the two side by side. I think they're both super cool watches. I think they both kind of look unique, and would recommend them both. These are a little harder to come by, but this is going to be my new everyday wear. I think this watch looks really cool, and it has a real nice lacquered black that just looks very kind of inky, like it's almost like, looks like it's a, you know, it looks like wet paint. It's got a real nice black color. All right, thanks for tuning in, and I'll probably come back in a few weeks once I get my sapphire crystal, and I might do it on camera, do an upgrade. All right, catch you on the next one.